And good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Get Busy with Kit and Jim. Wow, it's been a crazy week already. It's Tuesday and it kind of feels like Friday already. But let's go. Let's hit it. First of all, let me give a shout out to our panelists. My partner in crime, Kit. How's it going, Kit? What's up? What's a good word for this morning?
Reciprocity?
Wow.
No, I'll stick with coffee.
I love coffee. Reciprocity might be too
That's
hard for
actually
my brain to process this.
that's actually Kristen's word that I stole that she said like a month ago that is still in my mind. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, Tuesday mornings are always fantastic, and I'm gonna have so much fun. Dean and Dennis is back, so that's fantastic.
Dennis is back. Our prodigal son. Hey, Dennis. What's the good word? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Now I can talk.
Now you can talk. There are no good words from you because the host muted you. So,
Yeah, that's what I get for being a prodigal son, right?
right.
Now, it's been a crazy month and a half getting moved into the new studio and everything, but ta-da, we're here, and so I'll be back a little more often for the next few months.
Awesome. Well, hey, Dennis, why don't you give us a sneak peek about what you're up to, what you got going on?
Okay. Well, I took a job with a company called Intaline, and we do work for charities, fundraising as well as marketing for charities. We're pre-launch still right now, so that's about all I can say. But we are going to be rolling out a new HOA a week from Wednesday, and my entire job, believe it or not, is HOA production. We're hoping to get to where we're broadcasting 24/7 with various content. But our first HOA is going to be called the Pandemic Code, and we're going to break down different things that have gone viral and explain why they've gone viral, and you'll see who the team is. We've got a pretty amazing team of geniuses helping me do that because I'm not smart enough to break that stuff down.
It takes a village, Dennis. It definitely takes a village. That's why I've built my little village over here because Mr. Fierce couldn't do this all on his own, but with all of you guys' help, man, it turns into something pretty epic and pretty awesome.
Actually, James, it was because of you that I thought of the idea of building a team. So, yeah.
Oh, nice, cool, awesome. So, hey, Dean, Lindsay, welcome
Yes,
to
sir.
Get Busy. How are you this morning?
Rock and roll. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, so hold on. Let me get my prep notes up. Yeah, I'm not supposed to divulge that, but what the heck? We're completely transparent here on Get Busy. So, um, again, welcome everybody to Get Busy. So the theme of today is, are you ready for the progress challenge? And so what's more important in your life, perfection or progress? Our guest today is Dean Lindsay. I'm super excited to be talking with him about the concept of forward progress. Many times in life we get caught up thinking that failure is not an option, when instead we should be focused on making forward progress. And if we're making forward progress, how can we learn from our mistakes? How can we learn from our failures and continue moving forward? So, a brief introduction of Dean. Dean is an ideal high-content speaker for organizations looking for entertaining speakers to address important business topics such as sales growth and motivation, social media wealth strategies, business networking, customer service, leadership, and teamwork. And he's the author of 2 books, The Progress Challenge and Working and Winning in a World of Change. The Progress Challenge, Working and Winning in a World of Change, and Cracking the Networking Code, 4 Steps to Priceless Business Relationships. So Dean has presented keynotes in several countries, including Poland, Sweden, Turkey, Mexico, Canada, Venezuela, and the islands of Aruba and Jamaica. Wow. Clients include American Airlines, New York Life, Marriott, Hilton, Fujitsu, Ericsson, Aflac, Yay, the Aflac Duck. Love that guy. Western Union, Heinz, Gold's Gym, and the United States Peace Corps. Wow. Wow, Dean. Okay. That is pretty flipping
Those sound good.
amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Tell us, hey, Dean, so I'm going to get started right away with a question. Tell us about Dean. Like, who is Dean? Where did you grow up? And what inspired you to become who you are today?
Wow. Okay. Cool question. What inspired me to become what I am today? Marx Brothers, Charlie Chaplin, Tom Peters, Zig Ziglar, God, Jesus, my mom, my dad,
Wow.
Viktor Frankl.
So, how did Charlie Chaplin inspire you? I find that kind of intriguing.
Charlie Chaplin was he's amazing. Not only was he a pioneer of a medium, but also a writer, director, songwriter. Could do so much with so little words or no words at all. My stuff really did come from, I guess, and he also took on the establishment with the dictator. That's the reason I also mentioned Citizen Kane. I come from a theater love of theater, which put me up on the stage, and then a love of psychology, which gave me the background to do the research that I needed to put out the material, put out the book. So it's really a molding of those two entities together: the theater, the live performance, the love of the twist of a phrase, or what you can do with just a gesture, and then also mixing that in with the psychology of really how we make decisions, which is why I mentioned Viktor Frankl and some of those other cats.
Wow, what a crew of characters. That's awesome. So, hey, Dean, where did you, so I detect a little bit of a Texas twang. So I assume
that's
that
the
you grew
official
up in...
Texas twang, Jim. That's the official one. It's not a little bit of anything. I'm born and raised Texan. I'm a full-fledged American mutt. I was raised in Denison, Texas, which is a little border town between right at the border of Oklahoma and Texas. In fact, I will brag about myself. Something you did not mention, which I'm actually very excited about. This year marks the 30th anniversary of my high school team going 16-0 and winning the state championship here in Texas, and for a state championship football. And in 3 weeks, me and the rest of my champion brothers are getting inducted into the, I didn't know they had one, into the Denison, Texas Hall of Fame, and they're putting us in a parade. And when you go into Denison, Texas, it's home of the 1984 state championship. So I see all the guys I played football with since I was 6 here in about 3 weeks, and we all get patted on the back one more time.
Oh, that's cool. Well, kudos and congratulations. That's awesome,
Thanks.
Dean.
It's a pretty big deal to me.
That is a big deal. You know what? Bet you didn't know we could do that. Also, this is...
But that's when you should do it. Let's see how many of those I can give.
Awesome. Hey, just so our audience knows, this is the very first time you've ever been on a Google Hangout. So... Yes,
correct. That's correct. This is my very first Google Hangout, and I was so unprepared. I'm doing this on a smartphone. It's officially a smartphone. It's a smarter phone than I knew it could be. So that's cool.
Hey, and Dennis has 20 years of sales background, and so I know that sales is one of your big things. So I'm going to throw this over to Dennis here real quick, and let him banter with you, and maybe ask a couple of questions. So take it away, Dennis.
Okay. I was hoping to banter once things started moving, because I just jumped into the conversation 2 days ago and went, oh, I want to be there, but I haven't read your material because I just jumped in 2 days ago. So I'm gonna have to change that, seriously. But right. Dean, what is your give us your thoughts on selling styles, the way in which people, go through the sales process.
Well, there's so many people that you touched on this so well, prior to me. Most definitely, trust is key, but then also the need has to be established, or at least shared. I think that progress in service leads to progress in sales, and so I really believe in that we can be and should be as much service to our prospects long before they become customers, and that's with access to our contacts, that's with access to our information, that's with that's continuing to what I call starting to be progress for them the moment that you connect with them, whether you're connecting with them face to face, or through a referral, or through LinkedIn, or even Facebook, or somebody here on Google Plus. The relationship has to be established through one of trust, and that's obviously been discussed at length by other gurus, everybody from Jeffrey Gitomer to Tom Hopkins. Trust is vital, and so when it comes to a process, I think the other tenet is persistence, and also positive persistence. And when I should say that is our progress-based persistence, probably a better way to say that, is whenever we do connect with a prospect that we are wanting to turn into a customer, every time we connect with them, we need to be able to position ourselves with as progress, be able to position ourselves and offer them something that they can take away and say, hey, that was beneficial to me. I can go and use that, and then when the opportunity does come to be of service, we're first in mind.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. What are some of the things that people can do to build trust and to build rapport? And the world is kind of changing, because now we're going from well, it seems to me that we're relying so much on technology, and a lot of our relationships are actually being built on social media. But what is the key component of building trust with your potential clients as it relates to sales?
I think the key is genuineness and curiosity and listening, not assuming, truly wanting to help, but then also backing up and truly believing that in your products and services, and knowing that you can help if given the opportunity. There's like I said, there's so many trite. I don't want to say trite. They're true, but they're it's about a relationship, and everybody said that before. I'm not the first person to trot that out, but it really is about it's a relationship, and that relationship has to be one of mutual respect and like I said, curiosity, and I think that's what also pushes great organizations even further into greatness, is their curiosity of what their customers truly need, and then backing up and saying, hey, we don't even offer that right now. Maybe that's something else we can add, so they continue to be of service. But I don't think we can live in a cookie cutter mentality anymore. I think that social media has made it, not just social media, but also just back all the way up and just say Google and search in general. People have options. They know they have options for everything. So it's just makes it so much more important to be human and be somebody that they might be able to go get somewhere else, but they can't get you. And so that was good. That was well said. I like that. They can get product and service somewhere else, but they can't get you.
Right.
Like that. So that's what I'm saying. Back everything else up and just use that. Can we edit in this Hangout thing?
Yes, exactly. We edit live. We do that live.
Down to pithy.
Hey, Dean, I think a lot of people, including myself, are kind of scared of the concept of sales and selling to people. Why do you think people get kind of scared of sales? And what advice can you give to entrepreneurs and business owners who have to sell themselves and their product or services? What are some things that you can, maybe ideas or suggestions or tips that you can give us to kind of ease that anxiety that a lot of us have. You know,
Well,
when,
I would say that social media has actually helped with that, because I believe that we get to show so much of ourselves through social media. If we show ourselves the right way, then we become attractive, and people might not know about our products and service, or that they want to give us money, but they have established some form of a again, level of trust or relationship, to where when we do reach out to them, they're much more interested. So I think it's people say it in different ways, that you need to be careful of what you put out there in social media, but that is exactly right. But I would say almost just the opposite. Take it there, the right type of spin that puts you out there as a caring, trusted advisor, thought leader, so that when you do, proactively reach out to them, whether that's again through LinkedIn or calling them up on the phone, that they already have kind of a positive, they already have a positive trajectory of how they feel about you and your company. So, but I'm again, I back up and I'd say I understand the concept about being nervous about sales, or being apprehensive about sales, because when you come out of the blue and I'm the first. If you're trying to sell me something, I'm the first one saying no. I'm busy. I got other stuff to do. But if you're persistent and you can influence me to where I'm gonna invest the time and the energy to say, yeah, your stuff is something I need, then you're doing me a service. You're not selling me anything. You're serving me. I think every time you sell something, that's somebody saying, yeah, I want to buy that. That's a service that now you're agreeing to, versus something you've been sold. So I think the main thing is focus on serving, and it'll lead to sales. Again, just cut the rest of that out.
Right. Okay. So now you're going to see something else we can do real cool here. So we can actually give shout-outs here on Get Busy. So we have a comment and maybe a question from one of our viewers, Griswold Grimm. Hey, Grizz. How's it going? So Grizz says, I think someone will have trouble establishing trust and rapport with me if they come at me with a strategy to establish trust and rapport. I'm really glad Dean Lindsay's first answer was being genuine. So yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. It's a chicken and an egg, a cart and a horse, type of a thing, with being transparent, being genuine, and wanting to build trustful relationships. I've just got a really quick story, because I'm starting to get more and more into sales. One of my clients actually has given me the opportunity to sell some of their products for them, and so I established a really good relationship with an awesome and amazing owner of a frozen custard and Italian ice store. And so I initially established the relationship, met them in a mixer, in a networking meeting, just established an initial bond with them, started to talk to them over time, and got to understand a few of the issues with their particular business. And it turns out that one of the products that my client offers is a digital menu board. And so I started to talk to her about her business and some things that she needed to do better in her business. And one of them was, one of the things that she needed was, she had a lot of products that people just didn't know about. The store offered several products that were actually more profitable than what you could just see walking in. And so as a result of that discussion, it came to light that, wow, they could really use a digital menu board. It really tied in with the feeling of the place anyways. And with the digital menu board, they're going to be able to showcase some of their better products, some of their more profitable products. But I guess to make a long story over, that whole sale came about just because I established a relationship. There was a trust built, between me and the owner, and I was able to bring them a solution. And So yeah, that was an awesome,
That's a great story.
yeah, success story. So with that, hey Dean, so I always we like to get to know our guests really well here on Get Busy. So I'm going to ask you, what has been one of your biggest sales successes and maybe one of your biggest sales failures, and what did you learn from each one?
Biggest sales success. I think they're both the same person. I think both my biggest success and my biggest failures is selling myself. Selling myself on the that I had good material, good enough material to invest the time in writing and continue to writing and staying with it. I think my biggest failure is when I don't believe in myself. So I think that selling yourself really first is key. And I'm just as human as anybody else. I don't have a I don't have a true. I mean, I think at some point in life you realize you really don't have a wall. You might have attempted to build a wall, but things still get through, and things are already living in your head. And so both my biggest sales success and my biggest failure are when I don't position the opportunity I have to be of service to others correctly in my head, and therefore can't be of service the way that I know that I can. I mean, it should be easy for me to tout out some sales success, like working with some of the clients you mentioned earlier, and honestly, most of my stuff comes to referrals. I don't really go out and hunt. That's one reason I wrote the books, was so that opportunities would kind of come more in my direction than me go out and have to hunt them. But I'd say the first person and most important person that you have to sell is yourself, and that's a daily. So I'm continually succeeding and failing daily.
That's pretty epic. I love that. Hey Kit, I know you're chomping at the bit to say something, so chime in.
No, I absolutely love the way he said the most important person you have to sell to first is yourself. That's something I'm learning every day. But one word that I really liked that you used, Dean, was curiosity. That's not a word I hear very often, actually, because according to me, my 5 C's of success are creativity, curiosity, commitment, consistency, and compassion. So these are my 5 tenets of success. And it's really nice to know somebody who's backing that claim, because as children, we are taught to be curious, but as adults, we are taught to conform. And somewhere we lose that curiosity, and it all becomes, it becomes too much about ourselves, and we don't care genuinely enough about the other person. So what are some common mistakes that you have noticed that people make when it comes to selling, that could easily be avoided?
I think you kind of hit it there, is assuming that you can just go in and tell somebody what you have, and that they're automatically going to go, yeah, I want that. Being curious involves a lot of those other words that you say: compassion, caring, communication. I think it goes. I think the almost the other opposite end of curiosity is assuming, thinking you know everything. So I think that staying this is another one of those little trite statements, but staying young at heart. And realizing that you don't know at all. In fact, there's I think it's pretty much universal now, a statement where I can't necessarily attach it to one person, but basically, the more you travel, the less you know. Have you ever heard that statement before?
No, I've
the
not.
more you travel, the less you know. And what that basically means is if you never travel, then you assume you know everything. And that can almost go in for sales as well. If we're just going in there and pitching people's stuff, then we can think we know everything. But the more back up and just ask questions and realize there's so much more. Can I get a recording of this? Can we transcribe this? Good stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally. So yeah, Dean, the cool thing about this about Google Hangouts on Air is they live forever. So once the show is over,
I'll go back with a pen and paper.
Exactly. Oh yeah, we can totally figure something out. Dennis transcribes.
Yes, I do.
It's so good.
So.
So hey, Dennis, has this discussion prompted any questions? Any other questions for you?
Absolutely. So the first answer that Dean gave early on got me to thinking. You know, with years of experience, I have been long before it was even cool. You know, doing the relationship format of selling. One of the difficulties that happens, the fine line that happens when you're working from a serve the person first to create progress, to give them value up front, is that tipping point at which you just became a free consultant and they will never buy anything once you cross that line. Do you have any thoughts or insights into how to be aware that you're getting close to that line?
You're asking when to kind of cut bait?
Not necessarily cut bait, but when you get to this point at times in the sales process where the things that you're doing, yes, they're helping the person, but the person sees you as they can get anything they want from you for free.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I've had that happen to me, and I've had that happen to clients and friends and everything, where you're providing so much value and people are just taking. No, there's got to be some point where you got to take care of yourself, and I truly believe in that. Even more than that, so the first person you got to serve also is you. I can be of more service to you or anybody else the better I take care of myself. Physically and mentally and all that stuff. So it has to be a two-way street, and at some point, most definitely you're not going to give your products and services and stuff away. And I'd say that every time that you have a situation like that, they might not have bought from you, but they've definitely taught you a lesson. The other thing to consider is maybe that they're not going to be a client, but they could be a strategic alliance or a referral source, or possibly someone to pitch something to in the early stages, where you know that there's not a real big chance they're going to buy it in any way. It's just kind of a testing ground, but just being aware. A lot of times we just don't think. A lot of times we just kind of in action mode all the time, that we don't really pull back and kind of think about either what's happened or what we want to have happen, and so we kind of just keep spinning our wheels. I think another challenging thing is not wanting to hurry up the process, both with that individual and then also just in our society. We're so success driven and quota driven and results driven, that sometimes we don't allow the process to continue. And that's one of the negative things about social media, is that we compare our insides to other people's outsides. And that's not just social media, that's just society in general, or a person. We compare our insides to other people's outsides. And other people on Facebook and LinkedIn and all these things, and their profile and all these things, they're just showing you the best of their best, and you're living your whole life, and you got one sale this week, or 3 sales this month, and a whole bunch of no's, and somebody else has got a whole bunch of yeses, but you don't know how many times they heard no over the last 6 months to lead up to those with those same people, or the discounts they had to give, or all this. All you know is and that's the same thing with I live here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and plenty of people have super fancy cars, but you have no idea what their finances are like. I mean, everybody has to live in their own skin.
Yeah, there's this. I think there's this quote that says, "We always compare our reality to somebody's highlight reel." So you never know how many obstacles or challenges they've faced in life to get to the point that they are in. But we just tend to discount all of that and just have this weird comparison. I do it all the time, so that's why I'm like nodding my head. I'm very big. I used to be very big on comparisons. I'm hopefully getting better. But they're useless.
No, it's really hard. It's really tough. Yeah, we're judging ourselves by other people's yardsticks too. We whether our parents or just what success is supposed to look like, and especially in this society where it's tough. It's tough to live in your own skin and make your own choices and not be pulled in directions that don't make sense to you and all that stuff. It's not easy. None of this stuff is easy.
Yeah, I always say don't treat life like a checklist. It's not a checklist. It's supposed to be an explorative journey where you get to know yourself a little bit more every day. But a lot of people don't realize that. They think of it as a rule book and say, okay, you grow up, to go to school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you have this job, you get a car, you get a house, then you die. So it's kind of a weird checklist that I have thrown out of the window a year ago. So it's made a lot of difference in my life and in my mindset when I did that. So what are your thoughts? So what are your thoughts about perfection? So let's move on to perfection versus progress. So what are your thoughts about perfection? Do you think perfection exists?
Oh,
Anybody can answer if you want. Dean is, I think, frozen. So
yeah, I think Dean's frozen. Hey, so that's a great question. Oh, there he is. Are you back, Dean?
I don't know. I didn't mean to go away.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we got you now. So the question, I don't know if you heard the question, but the question from Kit was, what are your feelings on perfection? And is perfection actually achievable, or is it a myth that,
Yeah, perfection. Well, it's unattainable anyway. I mean, there's no true definition of perfection. Perfection is book. There's no perfect relationship. There's no perfect doesn't exist.
yeah, right,
So
I
I don't know
agree.
why we're striving for some definition. As soon as you have to define perfection, it's not perfection.
It's not, yeah, exactly. And I think people struggle for perfection, and I think one of the ideals, one of the concepts that you bring forward in focusing on progress instead of perfection is that you can actually achieve progress. You can't
Yeah, yeah,
necessarily achieve
and that's
perfection.
painful too. I mean, and that's something that I've you know dealt with in my speaking, in my writing, in my
Okay, so I think we lost the volume for a second with Dean. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Um, so yeah, Kit, what are your thoughts on perfection versus progress?
you said me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because we had an interesting conversation with, I think Dean is still
Benedict
talking. Yeah.
in all that you can truly offer. That takes a willingness to go through pain, and a lot of times we don't want to do that. So it's much easier to just say, "Oh, it's not going to be perfect, so I'm not going to try," because uh, we in I talk about a lot of times I talk about what I call the 6 P's of progress. That everything we do consciously or subconsciously, we do for a mixture of 6 reasons, 6 feelings or emotions that we as humans are moving towards. And those 6 P's are peace of mind, pleasure, profit, prestige, pain avoidance, and power. And pain avoidance is huge. Pain avoidance is something we all want. We all want to avoid pain, but there's a lot of different levels of pain, and so I think that it's very important to, when we look at pain, say what's more painful, discipline or regret. Discipline or regret. And if we're going to and most people would say regret. The problem with regret is, when do you feel it? When it's too late. And so we need to have the discipline, and the discipline is self-discipline. It's about making choices that might be painful choices to avoid the bigger pain of not feeling that regret later, that you didn't take that risk, that you didn't go through that learning curve. But and it does go back. Kit talked about the different stages, the different check boxes, and going to school and all that stuff. I think college is easy compared to life. Teachers get in the semester tell you, here's how to get an A, and you do that, and and I did. And when you get out there after the tassel gets moved over, you're like, okay, who's supposed to tell me where the A is? How do I get that?
Yes, I always joke about it because I did my bachelor's in engineering, and I was a really good student. I was really good at taking tests, so I got pretty much A's and 4.0s. And when I got out of college, I was like, what's an anode? So it's it speaks a lot to what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Wait, is somebody talking? No. Okay. So yeah. So whatever you do, I think. Yeah. I just want to make sure. Yeah. But I guess what I've learned is whatever you do, do it from your heart. Listen to your heart. To never ignore the whispers of your heart. That's something that I'm learning to do.
I'm glad you said it instead of me because it sounds so wishy-washy and lovey-dovey, and yeah, that's exactly right. I think it sounds like such a. I'm like, no, let's just kick some butt. How about we?
Yes.
We're gonna go out and get them. Don't forget, I'm a state championship football player, so I know about kicking butt. But
right.
and I also talk a lot about the heart. So I understand but I can tell you we did play from the heart, and then coach did tell us to kick butt, but we also love each other very much.
So you're a Cowboys fan?
I think it's vital. I think that we lose that a lot with as we age and kind of get in what we think are comfort zones, which are definitely, I don't necessarily think even the quote unquote comfort zones are necessarily that comfortable. That we don't necessarily continue to examine our lives and our opportunities in such a way that it does continue to lead to progress. And another thing that I one of my little sayings is that change is inevitable. Progress is a choice, and a lot of times if you don't make a choice, things are going to change. They're just not necessarily going to change for the better, and then you're going to be dealing with that.
So be proactive instead of defensive.
Be proactive
instead of reactive.
In your own progress.
Yeah.
And as a byproduct, you will be able to be progress for others.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. It's always about helping others. It's always about the other person. I think that's something that we need to remember. It's never about us. It's always about the other person. And I think we have a comment here.
Yeah, so Carmen says, the origin of perfect, Middle English parfait, from Anglo-French, from Latin perfectus, from past participle of, perficery. Perfierce. That's what I saw initially. I'm like, huh? Yeah, perfierce. We'll go with that. To carry out, perfect from, per thoroughly plus facere, to make, to do, more to do, i.e. to do something thoroughly, right? I agree with the thoroughly concept. I think the thoroughly concept of perfection is important, but I think where people get it twisted, right? I think people think that in order to be perfect, you have to go beyond being thorough and, strive and reach for perfection, whatever that is, or whatever that means. But it's something that you can never achieve, whereas progress, you can achieve. You can measure progress. I don't think you can measure perfection.
Yeah, the problem with perfection is you cannot define it. It's how do you define perfection? I understand the meaning, but how do you define perfection? What is perfect? What is perfect to me is not perfect to you. So last week, like I was saying, I was on the show with Phil Boyer, and we talked about perfectionism, actually. And there I was, the other panelist was Lakeisha Brown, I think, and she brought up an excellent point. She said, don't strive for perfection, strive for excellence. That is achievable. That is that can be a smart goal, to achieve excellence. You can set smart goals to achieve excellence, but how do you achieve perfectionism? Perfection is just a perfect excuse to not get anything done. That's how I look at it. And oh, we lost our guest, by the way.
And speaking of perfection, we are certainly not achieving perfection today, but we are having a lot of fun with the show. And I'm so glad that we strive for the hot mess instead of striving for perfection.
See, that is more achievable. We do that every week. Did I tell you about the time I white boxed my guest the whole show when you were not here, Jim? Oh. But you didn't even learn, right?
Right. That's how we learn. We make mistakes and stuff happens and crap happens and we lose our guest like midway through the show. Who knows what happened? Did his phone completely discharge? I don't know.
But Deuce, so Dennis, what is your view on perfection? What do you think about it?
And you know what? You guys chat a minute. I'm going to call him up and see if I can get him on the line and see if I can get him back. So I'm going to mute myself and you guys have at it.
So, perfection. The reason that I brought up Carmen's statement is that once you broke all of the difficult to pronounce words down, you ended up with to do something thoroughly.
Thoroughly, yes.
And I think, again, you're right. It does depend how you define perfection. But, honestly, I'm perfect. I'm perfect at being Dennis. Will I be more perfect at being Dennis tomorrow? Yeah, hopefully I will be. And if you take a step back and you look at the philosophy, you can be the best you, or second best someone else, then, it can kind of diffuse the grandiosity of being perfect. Well, what is perfect? As you said, Kit, it's different for you than it is for me. Okay, well, if it's different for you than it is for me, then I shouldn't worry about your definition of perfection.
Right.
I should be thinking about what mine is. And mine is to derail every HOA as often as I can.
And mine is to white box my guests.
There you go. See, you were perfect.
Right?
Now, this reminds me, I don't know if any of you watch Friends. I know a lot of people on Google Plus. My friends don't watch Friends, but I'm a huge fan of the show Friends. And in that, there's this character, Monica. So she wants to be the best at everything in life. So she's obsessed about being best at everything in life. And but she's a horrible masseuse. So she tries to massage her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is afraid to tell her that she is horrible because he knows she's going to take him the wrong way. So he goes up to her and says, "You give the best worst massage." And she gets really happy. She's like, "Yeah, I give the best worst massage." So it's something like that. I mean, what is perfection? It's so that just cracks me. I was just reminded of it. But yeah, I mean, it's so subjective. And the problem is society, like Dean was saying, we tend to compare everybody with a certain set of benchmarks, certain set of yardsticks, this amount of salary per year. If you get that, I'm talking about my country and my culture, $200,000 a year, and you're perfect. You've got this mansion in California, you have 2 kids, your life cannot get better. So they don't realize that, again, perfection is a journey. I mean, it's a journey. It's not a destination. Life. You have to live through the journey and not worry so much about what your destination is, so much as enjoying what you're going through at the moment. And when you do that, and when you accept all your imperfections and accept yourself wholeheartedly in your entirety, I think you will be perfect in your own eyes. Like you said, you be the best version of you.
Yeah, I like that. The best version of you. So, Cheryl, Dennis's other half, better half, whatever. Better half. She says, "I'm a perfect Cheryl. I'm also perfect for Dennis Deuce."
She's right.
Perfect for each other.
Yeah,
they are the cutest couple. They are the cutest couple. on Google Plus. I've seen. They're so adorable.
Yeah, well, we're perfect at being perfectly messed up, but we love it. So,
Well, hey, we live for the hot mess. So, hey, Dean, welcome
Yes.
back.
Yeah, I am. I made it back.
Made it back. Awesome. So yeah, I love that change is inevitable, but progress is a choice, right? I agree with
Yes,
that
sir.
wholeheartedly because we can't. Change is happening probably faster now than it has ever in the history of time. There's so many changes on a daily basis. Technology is advancing at such a rapid pace. And our society is changing, the way we do business is changing, social media is flipping everything up on its side. Disruption is happening everywhere. 2 years ago, who thought that some company like Uber would come in and basically take over the world in regards to transportation? And I mean, change is everywhere. And so how we progress and how we deal with change, I think is such a cool concept. So maybe, Dean, if you can tell what kind of inspired you to write the Progress Challenge, the book, and why do you think it's such an important concept for us to grasp today? Okay, I think we're still not getting volume.
To write it was really the one, after all the people that I mentioned, the one person that I chose to kind of use as my foundation for all my everything that I teach is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Viktor Frankl. He's a European psychiatrist, and he's considered to be the third father of Viennese psychiatry. You got Freud, Adler, and then Frankl. He wrote what the Library of Congress considers to be one of the 10 books, one of the top 10 books that made the most difference in people's life. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And he came up with this concept of logotherapy. So it was really his tenets, and I became a student of logotherapy and went to a couple of world congresses on logotherapy, and really studied him as a man and his work. And you're absolutely right. Everything you said, Jim. I mean, things are moving incredibly fast, and things are changing. That doesn't necessarily mean they're progress, and it is vital that we take the time, because we're going to be sold all the time. Marketing is the other aspect that really I took when I went to college. My emphasis in my communication studies was on the concept of persuasion, and actually I wouldn't even plan on making my influence on persuasion. But my very first professor that spoke on persuasion was very persuasive, and got me really interested in it. So it was when we studied the media. We studied each week. We'd study a facet of how we are sold things, how we're pushed into believing certain things about what we should or shouldn't do with our time and energy and money. And so it was really those things that propelled me to really take a step back again. And they say, and I think it's true with both the books that I've written, you almost write the book that you need to read. And so a lot of the study was self-discovery and me trying to figure it out for myself. And then when I thought I did have kind of a cool, hip way of sharing timeless principles. I mean, none of this stuff. I think the only thing that I've really latched onto that is unique is the positioning it, the progress versus change, and the Be Progress and the 6 P's of progress. That's all mine. Everything else is really timeless stuff that I'm definitely not Gandhi. I am not Gandhi. But Gandhi said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Well, if it's the change you wish to see in the world, then it's progress. So maybe I'm just pithier. I'm sure that in his native language, he probably only used 2 words to say it too. But when he translated it, need more words. But be the change you want to see in the world, which is one of Gandhi's most famous quotes, really means be progress. Be the change you want to see in the world. Well, if it's the change you want to see, then it's progress. It'll be progress.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's important with. I think you nailed it, Dean. One of the most important things, even though our technology is changing like crazy, it's impacting people all over the world. The unemployment rate in the United States is still extremely high, and there are people who will never get back on the employment train, right? Because of their age or the technology that they had studied is now obsolete, and banking systems have changed, or for a plethora of reasons. People have to figure out a way to progress themselves forward. I'm sorry. So I think your message is timely, even though it does kind of get back to the basics. Sometimes with all of the change, with all of the technology, I think we do need to step back and get back to the basics, right?
It's been really interesting. Being the book's been out for 4.5 years now, and to have such a variety of companies and organizations kind of latch on to the concept of progress versus change, and the progress challenge, and the change is inevitable, progress is a choice. I mean, it just crosses all lines, and we could, and we do. So oftentimes just sit back and let it wash over us, and here's the next place to eat, and here's the next thing to do, and here's the best way to invest your money and all these things. And we don't really we don't have to think if you don't want to, man. You don't have to think at all, and you can be just going on. I don't want to say autopilot because somebody else is driving. It's not autopilot at all. There's professionals that are pulling your strings, and until it's like, let's say I want to be the ideal weight. All right, is there pleasure? Are there benefits in being the ideal weight? Yeah, there's benefits. There's pleasure to be gained by being the ideal weight, but there's also pleasure in Haagen-Dazs. Right, and how that Haagen-Dazs get in your freezer? Well, the Haagen-Dazs, you had to buy it, and you bought it, based on they know your flavor, and they know the marketing, and they know the font size, and so there's a lot of things working. I don't want to say necessarily against us, but encouraging us not to necessarily have our own plan, but to adopt theirs.
Right. So, hey, Dennis, what would you like to add to this conversation?
I want to pull up this quote from Grizz, or this question that he asked. I know this is kind of an older question here, from a conversation earlier on, but I think it's really an interesting question. What's the tough guy framing of always listen to the quiet whispers of your heart?
Yeah.
Kick butt.
I think that is the toughest thing to do. I think that's the toughest thing to do, actually, right there. I don't think that needs to be reframed. I think that the reframing has to happen not in the phrasing. I think it has to do with the willingness. I think you get tougher the more you dig into it. I feel tougher now than I've ever been, but I think it's in my ability or to stare weakness in the face and know how weak I am. It actually makes me stronger than I've been. So I don't think that there is a tough guy formatting of that phrase. I think that you just need to chew on that phrase and own it.
So you don't have to reformat the phrase. You have to reformat
reposition it in your head.
Your viewpoint of yourself.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love the way you just said, you looked, let me see if I could rephrase this correctly. You looked fear in the eye and saw how weak you were, and that made you strong, or something like that, right? I absolutely love the way you said that, because so many of us are afraid to look fear in the face.
I just made it up, but that's the way I feel.
No, but when I've been...
that's the way I feel.
Yeah, because I've been avoiding.
I feel more real now than I did, prior to digging into this stuff, but I think I think there's a lot of strength in the ability to show weakness.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of strength in being vulnerable. Yes. Because once you show that you're vulnerable,
There
you
is,
show that you're
and we don't.
human.
And in fact, that's ever read the book Daring Greatly, or listened to the TED Talk called Daring Greatly? And somebody can Google that right now. I don't remember the author's name, but she does a great job and talks about how especially men are not encouraged to be vulnerable, and that it's considered a weakness when in actuality, knowing you are choosing to be vulnerable is actual showing of strength.
Yeah, I think people confuse, I mean, they kind of don't understand the meaning of vulnerable. Vulnerable is not like crying all the time or sobbing all the time, which is considered weak for men. I think vulnerable is just knowing your strengths and weaknesses and not being afraid to own your weaknesses. I think that's what is being vulnerable. That you don't try to put up this facade that of perfection, that I'm macho, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. No, you know your strengths, you know what you're good at, you know what you're not good at, and you're not afraid to own up to it. And I think that's what being vulnerable is all about. It's not about, I don't know, being sissy or whatever they call it. But yes, it's not about just sobbing or crying. It's about knowing who you are and owning up to it. I think that's what being vulnerable is all about. That's how I look at it. And
well,
I think
I played when I was this is my football talk with you guys. When I was a senior, we went 13-1, and I was a defensive end, and I did start my senior year. I didn't start my junior year, but I did start my senior year, and I played the weak side. And the other guy on the other side was All-State. I was not All-State. I was the 11th best player on our starting defense. And anybody who plays football knows you have 11 players. So I was the worst starting. I was the best worst starter. Worst best starter. So every offense that we played against knew my number because that's who they were running towards. And about 2/3 of the way through every game, and we didn't even have to tell coach, I'd look over at Elmer, and he'd be directly across from me, and I'd just shake my head, and he knew what that meant. We were going to switch sides. And even though he was now going to the weak side, that's where they were. We were partnership. He never dogged me. He never came down on me. We didn't have to, like I said, we didn't have to go to, Coach Criswell, who, was one of the smartest tactical coaches whoever played the game. We can go through him. Coach knew when Dean couldn't handle it anymore, he had to hand it off to Elmer. And the goal was to win the game. Not
Right.
For me to show off that I could pull up.
I love that because what you're purveying is keeping you're purveying a couple of things: the importance of teamwork and collaboration in business, and I think that's huge. And I think it's something that we as solopreneurs sometimes kind of lose touch with because somebody like myself who comes from a corporate world where there were a lot of teams, and then goes into the I'm going to run my own business and be a solopreneur. It can be a little bit daunting because you don't get the same, quite the same opportunity for teamwork. But I've come to learn that there are definitely ways that I can power partner and collaborate and team up with other people. And there is power in teams because we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. But a team together, I mean, your team was 13-1, and that's a pretty damn good record. And it was 13-1 because you had a great coach, you had great players, and you had a lot of teamwork, right?
Mm-hmm. Is he frozen again?
Yeah, I think he's
No,
frozen.
One of the greatest lessons that I ever learned in teamwork was actually from my 9-year-old nephew. He was in a basketball game, and he got the ball in his hand, and he could have tried shooting the ball for a 3-pointer, but he gave the ball to his friend who shot a 2-pointer, and that won them the game. So if he had attempted to shoot a 3-pointer and missed, he'd have lost the game. But if he had gotten the 3-pointer, he would have bagged the most number of points in that game. So somebody went and asked him in front of me, why didn't you attempt for the 3-pointer? I mean, you could have won the game, and you could have also been the highest ranked player. And he's like, does it really matter? The goal is to win the game. It's not my individual accomplishment. It's not my individual score. The goal is to win the game. And by giving it to my friend, I knew we could win the game. So that's what I did. And this was like a 9-year-old boy telling this 30-year-old, my sister, who was 35-year-old sister, telling her why he did what he did. And that was one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned on teamwork, is to not hog the limelight, but actually not be afraid to put others in the spotlight, because the goal is not your individual record. The goal is for your team to win. So I think that was a really good lesson that reminded me, and Dean reminded me of that. And we lost him again.
We are so imperfect on this show that we're perfect.
No, we didn't tell our dream audience that he's a magician.
Right, exactly. Yes, he has a disappearing act. That,
it was all planned. It was all planned.
It was all, yes, it was perfect. It was perfect. Well, you know what? Actually, we're at the end. Believe it or not, we're at the end of our time. I don't know if we'll get Dean back here in just a minute for a few last words, but let's see if he's able to get back on just for a couple minutes here and closing. Dennis, what are some of your thoughts? What are your takeaways from today's show? And what are some of your thoughts as we close out?
Takeaways. I've really enjoyed this conversation about the process that we need to go through. I firmly believe that it is a process of constantly trying to learn from our experiences and get better as we do that. But I love how, from a sales standpoint, Dean has framed that same internal concept that we all understand around the form in which we build relationships with our clients, by being that person who's there and able to help them achieve the things that they want to achieve. That is just, in the world of sales training, you've got to have something that differentiates yourself, which becomes more and more difficult over time, but that's a master stroke. Something that is well worth teaching, something that is well worth brushing up, and something that is well worth creating as a internal skill within sales. So I really enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to reading some of Dean's stuff, because he's very well grounded.
Yeah, he knows. It's clear that he kind of practices what he preaches. He seems to be the kind of guy who practices what he preaches. So that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, yeah. Once again, it was a great show. We mastered the hot mess, and we're getting better and better at that, and mastering it, and actually working our way through it. That's a great thing about being live, right? Is you just kind of have to learn to go with the flow, go with whatever happens.
With a smile on your face.
Absolutely. But yeah, it was great. It was great to connect with Dean. I look forward to connecting with him outside of the show. I'll invite him in to be part of our Get Busy Dream Team. I'm sure he'll want to come in and make some contributions. And we will definitely look to having him on the show again once we get his technology sorted. He had gotten a brand new laptop, and he had some issues with the Wi-Fi, and that's why we ended up bringing him in on the smartphone. But yeah, it was all good. I think we got some really cool info.
Yeah, the audience loved this show. I've been looking at the comments, and it's been pretty cool. So that's what we do it for. We do it for the dream audience. And so I do have one quote that I'd like to throw out there before we leave, because he said that, Dean said he was a fan of Viktor Frankl, correct? So I just found a quote right now. It says, "Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." I thought that was beautiful. So to wrap up with what he said, choose to be the best version of you every day. I'll steal a book from what Dennis said. And, sparkle. You have it, and don't aim for perfection, aim for persistence, aim for progress, aim for passion, aim for patience. Perfection, no, that's one P you should stay away from.
Right. I love that. Great point. Yeah, and progress you can measure. Perfection you can't really measure. So do something that you can measure over time, and always progress. Well, always strive to progress forward. But if you take a few steps back, don't let that.
That's called cha-cha.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I saw that on Facebook. It really made me smile.
Yeah, we all have to go through the cha-cha, and that involves stepping in both directions. So. Anyways, Dream audience, thank you once again for tuning in. We know that you have plenty of choices. And we always appreciate it when you choose to hang out with us on Tuesday mornings. Next week, I think, Kit, we have a couple of your friends.
Yes.
Joining us next week. We'll have to kind of put our heads together and brainstorm the topic. But I'm looking forward to another great episode of Get Busy. Dennis, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you. I'm so excited to see you here today. Let me tell you that. It totally brightened my morning.
Well, thanks for letting the prodigal son return.
Well, we love the hat, so.
Yeah, we love the hat, and we love you, and the Great Dane is pretty awesome as well.
Oh.
Yeah, and he loves all of you. All of you loves you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys, and we'll see you again next week on Get Busy. Take care.
Bye-bye.